Hey woodworkers. Okay, so I am getting ready to prepare to cut, stay there, to cut the groove on the bottom of what's going to be my drawer front. Now, there's a couple ways that this could be done with a board that was flat. This one, because it has this curve, it creates some challenges. The other thing about it is that I don't want this groove to go all the way through. I want it to end between where the joinery is on both of these dovetails. So because of that, I need to figure out a way that I can do a stopped cut and on a curved surface. And so I think a good solution for this is to use something called a slot cutter. Slot cutter has this, these cutters here are a 3-wing slot cutter like this. Has a bearing on top of it, so as this rotates in the router, I'll be able to drag this across the board and be able to cut this. There's a couple different sizes. This one is a really narrow cut. This one's slightly larger. It's actually more for a biscuit slot. Ideally, I would be using a 1/4-inch slot cutter, and if that were the case, then I would just raise this to whatever height I want and then do this in one pass. Because this is thinner than that 1/4-inch, I will have to do 2 passes, and that's okay. I'll walk you through it, but this is basically the process. So this thing is rotating at full speed. It would be kind of awkward and arguably probably not the safest thing I could do to just introduce this into that spinning cutter. So on routers, they have, on router tables I should say, they have this little locking pin here, and so I'll be able to pivot this into the cut, and once I've developed the full depth here, so the bearing is now touching the face of the drawer front, then I can pivot away from this little point and then be able to continue through my cut. In this application, I'm going to be leaning over, so I'm going to be staring straight down to gauge when this cutter starts in the cut here in the groove and then will end over here. I don't want to extend past those points. And for me, depending on the curvature of this or the thickness of the board, if it were straight, this is a fairly straightforward operation, and it's really safe. Without the curve, or if it was a really thin board, then the tipping would create some challenges. But on a straight board, you would never be doing this freehand. You would always use a fence. But the curve is going to be enough to stabilize and make sure that I'm holding this accurately. For my position, though, I would prefer to not hold the board away from me, or in other words, I don't want to have the cutter between myself and the workpiece. This, to me, I feel like I'm more prone to tipping because it's just so far away. With this, I have it a little bit closer to my body, and being able to go through the cut and do this, that's what's going to be happening here. So, alright, that's the setup. Let me show you what this looks like. I've already set the bit to the correct height. I'll turn it on. Alright, so that was that. Really not much to it. I think the biggest factor for this is just getting over that block of there's nothing supporting this material except for my position, or the position of my hands. If you are concerned about that, you can easily clamp a block across the back here that would help to stabilize this piece, and there's nothing wrong with that. But enough curvature here, like I said, it presents stability where we need it. So, alright, that's pretty decent. Yeah, made it all the way through. Just barely nicked the inside of the joint here, which is fine because it doesn't extend out to where the veneer is. So I'm going to raise up the bit and then do my final cut, and then I'll match this to the size of the drawer. So that was it. Catch up with you here in a bit.